Okay, so here's the table that I usually put all my supplies on, and here's the mass of supplies. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over all the supplies that I use, but first I have to clean up yesterday's mess. Okay, so now I have a cleaner area, and the reason I like it cleaner is because then I can see what paint's fallen on there and what mess I'm making. Okay, so I'm using you can use any kind of latex paint. I'm using a semi-gloss Bear. You can use anything that you want to use. I have all of my different mediums that I'm going to be putting on one at a time and explaining to you why I use them and the effects that they're having. One of the most important ones that I use, one of the most important things I have is my little tool set here. And everything here has a purpose. There's a cup of water here with some brushes, and sometimes I need them to touch things up or fix things. I also have my palette knives. We need a couple of different palette knives for cleanup, which I'll show you later. A couple of different brushes here, and you need these little wooden mixers. That I use them to stir up the paint. Really important. I use straws because I add water. Like I put the straw in the cup and I pull out just a little bit of water so that you add it one drop at a time into your paint mixture, because you don't want to add a lot of water because you could actually ruin your paint mixture. This is just the filler for my little cook's torch. It's really a torch that you need to do certain effects with. You don't always need to use it. I often use a blow dryer too, but this is the refill can for that, so I always just keep that in there. Here's another one of my palette knives, and this is another tool that I use for basically spreading the paint across, and that's something I'll show you as I do. You need to keep it really clean because you don't want any paint or lumps or bumps from a previous spread, okay? Okay, so now we have mediums, lots of different mediums that you can use in your pour. And acrylic, this is for glossing, and this is for adding a little shine to it. Sometimes you can use this afterwards and you can pour it on to create that slip, even coating. These are my pouring mediums, which is causing the cells and the different effects that you'll have in the paint. It basically is a conditioner for the paint so that it creates the cells. I also use Floetrol, which is also a paint conditioner. You can buy this at Home Depot, Liquitex, and the other things I buy at art supply stores. Liquitex, this one's I purchased at Art Mart. I also purchased that at Art Mart, but this one I purchased at a craft store. So I might not use the Floetrol today. I might, depending on the colors I want to use. So I keep those handy, and those will be added later. Also, what I have is Mod Podge, or you can use Mod Podge, again, purchased. Okay, so here's some necessities that you're going to need. You're going to need storage containers for your extra paint, because you will want to use those again. So when you make a large batch of a color, you can store it away. Right here I have some red that I had used before, and I put in that cup, but I really would have preferred to have those kind of cups, so I just purchased some of those at a dollar store. I also use a 3-in-1 silicone. So there's two ways that you can silicone this, and the silicone is what causes the separations. It also eases the paint out of the cup or whatever you're pouring it out of. I use the 3-in-1 silicone, or you can use a silicone spray. Both of these are purchased from Home Depot. Also, I have like a flow acrylic white that I can use, and I use it for touch-ups, or I use it to create the flow. Mostly I use a white paint. This paint, it's not really white. I don't like white, so I have it. It's, as you can see, it's a little bit of a cream, because I like all colors against creams and not necessarily whites. But I do have this white paint that I can use also as a flow type paint. Okay, then I have, this is like a heavy gel, and what this will do will just cause some thickness. I usually add water to thin stuff, but sometimes you do want a little bit of extra thickness, and I probably won't be using that today, but that is something that I also have. This is a retarder for the acrylic paints so that they don't dry so quickly. I won't be using that today too, but I do use that in other times. So I just wanted to show you that's on my table a lot. Again, a Liquitex pouring medium. This is the same as the big bottles. I got them like 2 for a price somewhere. I don't remember where. I always have a bottle of distilled water, and I use distilled water because it doesn't have any molecules that can confuse anything, and nothing gets caught in there. It doesn't have a dirty look. So I like the distilled water thing. I also have lots and lots of these plastic containers that I purchased from a dollar store, and you know, you're constantly redoing them, so you gotta pay $1 for them. So today I'm going to use this one for the acrylic paint, for the semi-gloss white paint. I don't know if I'm gonna be, it's not a big pour that I'm doing, so I probably won't use these giant ones, but if I'm doing a large pour and I have to measure out a large amount of paint, I'll put them in these, and I don't pour out from the pour spout, from this pour spout. I pour out from the, you know, from the cup itself, but it's a really nice sealing thing and it holds still. This is also another container that holds paint, and again, if I have a mass amount of paint that I am making, I'll do that. Just store it in a larger container. So it's really important to have all of these different storage containers and all the different things that you're going to do with them. Again, another large container to pour out paint, and that's not going to be used today, but you will need one of those at some point. So if you're at the dollar store picking up all these little items, pick up a large one as well, because you will use it. Also, I have spray bottles. Now, sometimes it depends on what's going to happen with this pour. I may spray water on it, or I might spray even an acetone on there, because they all make different effects. And what I'm going to be doing is a whole series on all the different effects that occur from different chemistries that you're doing with the paints, because the chemistry is really what's going on here with these different pours. Let me see what else I have. Of course, I have a lot of these cups. I use a lot of cups for pouring. These red cups I use for the dirty pours, and these clear cups I use for mixing the paint. So we'll do an example of how that happens in a few minutes. Obviously, I always have duct tape, because you always need duct tape. There's something that's always going to have to be taped down. And paints, lots of paints. So this is my acrylic paint bucket. So I use lots of different paints for different reasons. This one, it's got like a pearlized finish to it. Here's one that is like this really beautiful periwinkle color, but it also has a pearlized hue to it. Here's another iridescent in a different style of paint. It's a little thicker than the pour. And then, of course, I have all my different kinds of paints. Sometimes I just pick up paints. I don't know, Michael's is having some stuff on sale, or I go to an art store that's having a sale, and I pick up lots of different kinds of paint. So I don't necessarily have an allegiance to a paint at this point. Some paints don't work as well as other paints. So that's just experimentation. It's going to take time to experiment and figure that all out. I like different colors. I use a lot of these interesting colors in my original works. So as you can see, like I use a lot of hot colors in my original work. So these kinds of paints are fun for me. I use them in my acrylic paintings as well. So these are like your jewel tone kind of colors. And I always love throwing in silver. And I'm not a gold person, but I love copper. So copper's in there all the time. And here's, of course, a red. This red is going to be used on a painting that I'm going to be repairing with a pour, but also doing more mixed media pieces on. And I like this pink color because it mixes, it's like a peachy pink, and it really looks absolutely stunning against all these other colors. And when you're mixing, you'll see how they all pop up and what they do in mixtures. Okay, let me just set up my table and I'll show you how it's all set up. Okay, so just make sure you have a good area and that you're, covered and protecting your floor. And another pretty important piece is a level. You're going to need a level because we're going to be using these wooden plaques that are prepared, basically canvases, and they're going to have to be level. So when the pour is on, so you can see it's really, hold on, it's really not level. So what I'd have to do is when I pour it, I have to shim it up, or I have to I'll have to lift it up on one side or the other to make sure that that bubble is in the center, okay? Also, I use push pins. I put them in the bottom so that I lift it up. I'll get another drop cloth to put underneath here to collect the extra paint, because you see there's an awful lot of extra paint after there. I use these little extra tins. I get these, they're Ferrero Rocher tins. They had chocolates in them at one point. They were given to me, and I use them to place this on. You could use that to place it on, so it gives you a space between, or you could put the push pins on, and what you'll do is you'll just push them into this area here, and it lifts it up by, what is that, like 3/8 of an inch, okay? My trusty gloves, you're gonna need gloves, get gloves, because it's a messy, messy process. I have my water bottle of isopropyl alcohol. I have lots of rags all around, just to be prepared for that. I always have rags around, and I have a little thing to throw garbage into, maybe a rag or a paper towel, okay, and get a little roll of paper towels. So I'm pretty much set up here. I have my bottle of water. I poured my paint into this bottle so that when I administer this to the canvases, I'm just going to pour it out, as opposed to pouring it from a pour container or even from the can, which is heavy and awkward. Okay, so I'm going to prepare my cups now, and then we'll show you the ratio of all of these things that have to go in. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Namaste.